Welcome to Vinyasa Flow. My name is Jen, and we're here for about an hour, working together, moving our bodies, and just feeling good together, even though we can't actually be together. So I'm super glad you joined me this morning for class, and just prepare your space. A blanket's always handy later for relaxation or to sit on for our seated poses. If you have yoga blocks handy, those are also really helpful to have in by the space so that we can use them if we want to place a hand down later. So that's great to have as well. As we begin, let's also remember that anytime something doesn't feel quite right in the body, it's probably not. So if you're feeling discomfort, or especially if you're feeling pain, please change something about the position. Come out of it entirely or make a small adjustment. Pay attention to sensations in the knees, especially, but also anything along the spine, hips or shoulders, and our neck and head. We're going to take care of ourselves as we practice together. So let's begin standing on our mats and arms resting by our sides. Let's feel ourselves straighten up through our posture and relaxing through our shoulder blades and softening our gaze or closing our eyes. And as we do, let's bring our attention to the foundation of the pose, feeling from one foot to the other foot, and then both feet together, and feeling the sensations as they come up through the body, the strength of our legs as we press down, gently hug in, and then the lift that happens in the core of the body, through the back of the body, and allowing our shoulders to rest. And now let's bring our attention to our breath, feeling how our breath feels moving through our body. We may notice that our body expands and contracts somewhere here in the middle, through the abdominals, through the rib cage, or even up into the chest. And wherever we feel that movement, let's just be aware of it. We may even notice that gentle whispery sound of the breath. And as we feel and hear all of these parts of the breath, let's use that awareness to deepen our breath so that each inhale takes a little more time and each exhale takes a little more time. As we settle into this deeper, even pace of breath, let's take a scan of our body. Notice how everything's feeling today. Noticing if there are any parts of our body that are asking for a little extra care and attention. Perhaps we're caring for a knee or low back, a shoulder, or any other part of our body. Let's remind ourselves now to move with compassion for ourselves. All right, let's blink our eyes open. And as we get started, I would like to say, if you're joining live and you have a question at any time, perhaps you can't hear me well, see me well, or the directions are unclear, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. I'm happy to answer them as we go. Let's add some arm movements now to our breath, reaching overhead with our inhale and drawing hands through heart center as we exhale. And let's do several of these, just beginning to gently warm up through the shoulders, Feeling that connection between breath and movement. And one more. Let's reach overhead one more time and just trade off, reaching fingertips up toward the sky. Feeling that nice gentle side stretch, waking at the side of the body as we move here. And back to the center. Taking hands behind us for chest expansion, our choice to interlace or press palms toward each other. And whatever we choose, we'll draw our shoulder blades back so that we can really open up across the chest from shoulder to shoulder. And let's take this into forward fold, a nice hinge at the hips, reaching fingertips or clenched fists straight up toward the ceiling. And then letting it relax down. Inhaling for half lift, a nice flat back as we lift. And relaxing down again. All right, let's place hands on the mat and step back onto hands and knees. So as we come into this shape, we want our wrists under shoulders, our knees under hips. And let's work through our cat-cows. And as we move through cat-cows, if there's some other movements that feel good this morning, maybe some sideways cat-cows or rolling through the spine, let's just allow ourselves some time here to explore this movement. And bringing it back to neutral. Let's send our left heel back and our right fingertips forward for spinal balance, and then draw elbow and knee together under the mat. Inhaling as we reach, exhaling as we draw it in. On the next time we draw it in, let's hold here and round even more. And reaching again, let's take arm and leg out to the side. Back to the center, bending into the knee, reaching for the top of the foot. A little quad stretch, a little back bend. Reaching again, and back to hands and knees. Let's switch to the other side, flowing through the movement a few times. The next time we draw it in, let's pause and round a little more. And reaching, taking arm and leg out to the side, back to the center, bending into the back knee, lifting, quad stretch and back bend. Releasing and bringing it back to hands and knees. Let's press back now to child's pose. Letting our hips rest toward our heels, our forehead resting down either on the mat or stacked hands or fists. And let's pause here for a moment in child's pose and check in with the breath. So we feel ourselves breathing out through the ribs, reaching out toward the legs. And then releasing away with our exhale. And one more breath here. Now let's walk our hands over to the right, resting down through the left hip and rib cage. And let's take 3 breaths into the ribs. Walking through the center again, and hands over to the left now, Relaxing through that right side, and 3 breaths into the right ribs. And returning to the center. For puppy pose, let's slide our hands forward, letting hips lift away from the heels and resting our chest toward the floor. Enjoying that stretch for the shoulders, lengthening our spine. And then bringing hands back toward the body to prepare for down dog. Let's tuck our toes and lift our hips up and back. And take some time here to pedal it out. Stretching through the calves and the backs of the legs. And then pressing up high onto the balls of both feet. Feeling that stretch for the feet and then a big bend in the knees. Let's press our hips farther back. And then taking little baby steps, let's walk it up to the top into a forward fold. A nice deep bend in our knees here to allow our ribs to rest on our legs. Let's relax our head down and give our head a little nod yes. And then shaking our head no. And bringing it back to the center. Let's bring fingertips to opposite elbows. And sway side to side. A little extra stretch for the backs of the legs. And coming back to the center. Releasing our hands, let's bend our knees a lot. Reaching out wide, finding that nice long spine and pressing up and overhead. And letting arms relax down by our sides. Let's take a wide stance now. So either facing the long edge of the mat or stepping out on either side of it. Pointing out toes wide, let's reach up into 5-pointed star and flowing through moonflowers. Deep knee bend, elbows hugging in. Inhaling to reach and exhaling as we bend it in. Beginning to open through the hips and warming a little more into our shoulders. And on the next one, let's draw a big circle and hinge a little deeper. Flowing through sunflowers, even deeper movement into the hips. And enjoying that wider range of motion at the shoulder joint. And let's do one more. And then letting arms go by our sides. Let's pivot to face the front and step up to the top. Inhaling as we reach and folding it in. Inhaling for half lift and releasing down. Stepping our right foot to the back for lunge and left foot back for down dog. Pulling forward into plank. Let's release knees down, shifting and lowering for crocodile and relaxing to the mat as we peel up for cobra. Releasing down, let's tuck toes and press up and back to our down dog. Right foot stepping all the way to the top for lunge. Pressing up to forward fold. Reaching wide, let's come overhead. Circling as we sit into chair. And returning to mountain. Folding it in. Inhaling for a half lift and releasing. Left foot stepping to the back for lunge. All the way back for down dog. Pulling it forward into plank. Once more, knees down as we lower and release. Peeling up for cobra. Releasing down and tucking toes, pressing up and back to our down dog. Left foot stepping to the top of the mat, pressing up to forward fold, reaching wide and overhead, sitting in a chair, and returning to mountain. Let's keep this flow going, half lift, and releasing and right foot back. Down dog. Pulling it through, option for knees up or down as we lower. Hips down for cobra or pressing to up dog. And back. Right foot to the top. Pressing to forward fold. Reaching to mountain. Sitting to chair. And returning to mountain. Let's keep it going. Inhaling, half lift and releasing. Left foot stepping back and down dog. Pulling it forward for plank, knees up or down, crocodile. Hips down for cobra or lifted for up dog. And back to down dog. Left foot to the top. Forward fold. Reaching wide mountain. Chair. And mountain. Let's do one more round for each side. Lifting. Releasing. Right foot back. Down dog. Plank. Crocodile. Up dog. Down dog. Right foot to the top. Forward fold. Mountain. Chair. Mountain. Last one, folding. Lifting. Releasing. Left foot back. Down dog. Plank. Crocodile. Cobra or up dog. Down dog. Left foot forward. Right foot to forward fold. Mountain. Chair. Mountain and arms relaxing. Let's take a moment. Grab a drink. Towel off if needed. Adjust wardrobe. And let's get ourselves ready to continue. As we're ready, let's come up to the top of the mat. Feeling ourselves ground down and lift tall. And let's reach arms overhead, settling shoulder blades down as we step our left foot back into lunge. It's a tall lunge, lifting through the back heel, through the back knee, and through the hip points in the front. Let's sweep hands back, drawing our crown of our head forward, continuing to lift the chest and reach shoulder blades back. Continuing to press strong through the left leg. And let's bring it back up, crescent lunge. Allowing this to become warrior one, we'll simply let our back heel rest down. Enjoying that stretch through the calf. Continuing to lift strong through the front of the body, especially through the core muscles. Let's open to warrior two. Feeling our back hips settle down, our shoulders opening wide. And taking hands to the mat. Let's step it back into downward facing dog with the opportunity to move through vinyasa, which is always optional. So we can move through or stay in down dog or press back to child's pose. So we'll choose the option that works the best. And we'll meet back together in downward facing dog. Once we find that downward facing dog, let's take our feet wide so that either big toes are on the edges of the mat or maybe they're all the way outside the mat. And then reaching our chest back to stretch a little differently into the shoulders. Let's draw that forward into wide leg plank. Nice and strong through the shoulders, hips resting in line from head to heels. Staying lifted through the core. And sending it back. Let's bring our feet back to the mat and walk or step up to the top, finding our forward fold. Let's inhale for half lift. Finding that nice long spine and resting hands on shins or ankles or toes or the floor, wherever we can feel that lifted sensation. Drawing our core muscles in, let's reach hands back with palms down and reach shoulder blades toward each other on the back. Now taking this into chair pose, let's reach arms forward and settle hips back. Circling up to the top, relaxing through our shoulders. And let's step our right foot back into crescent lunge. Feeling that back heel lift, the back knee, and the hip points in the front. Sweeping fingertips back, reaching the crown of our head forward. Let's continue to press through the back leg, drawing shoulder blades toward each other on the back. And returning to crescent lunge. Turn this into warrior one. We'll simply bring our back heel down, pressing through the outer edge of the back foot, enjoying that stretch back there. And staying lifted and strong through the upper body. And opening it up for warrior two. Letting that back hip rest down, shoulders opening wide, front knee opening toward the little toe side of our foot. And taking our hands to the mat, stepping it back into downward facing dog, opportunity to flow through, or pause in down dog, or pressing back to child's pose. We'll continue here, taking our own options for another breath or two. And when we meet back together, we'll be in downward facing dog. Taking our right heel to the sky, letting that left heel drop down. Let's draw knee to forehead as we shift forward, rounding our spine. Sending heel up and back. And right knee to right elbow as we shift. And back. And right knee to left elbow. And back. One more time, knee to forehead, rounding, let's hold. And then nice and easy, stepping that foot to the top of the mat. Returning to our crescent lunge. Drawing hands to heart center, feeling ourselves gather the energy of our legs. Let's shift forward and as gracefully as possible, float up into warrior three. Pressing strong through the back leg. Let's take arms out wide. Left hip relaxing down. Hands returning to heart center. Just as lightly, let's float back down to our crescent lunge, reaching overhead. And opening it up into warrior two. Let's reach back into reverse warrior. Feeling our back hip settle, our shoulder settle, and lengthening from our right hip all the way up through the fingertips. So that we're equally pressing down through the legs and extending through the upper body. Bringing it forward into side angle stretch. We can bring elbow to knee, or if you have your block, this might be a nice time to place hand on the block in any of its positions. Letting the hips drop down as the body rotates open. And bringing hands to the mat, setting the block to the side. Let's roll up on the ball of the back foot and then let the knee rest down as we relax the hips a little deeper and lift through the upper body. Firming through the legs, let's draw ourselves up, lightly resting hands on the front thigh. With the option to reach arms overhead. And releasing hands down again. Let's tuck the back toes, lifting the back knee, and return to our crescent lunge once more. Taking hands to the mat, stepping it back. Opportunity again to flow through vinyasa, choosing down dog or child's pose. Staying with the breath as we move. And we'll meet back together in downward facing dog. Taking the left heel to the sky, relaxing the right heel down. Let's draw knee to forehead as we shift forward, rounding the spine. And sending it back. Left knee to left elbow as we shift. And back. And left knee to right elbow. And back. Knee to forehead once more as we round it out. And nice and easy. Setting that foot at the top of the mat. Coming into crescent lunge. Drawing hands to heart center. Gathering up that energy at the legs, shifting forward, and nice and light, floating it up into warrior three. Pressing through the right heel, relaxing the right hip, and taking arms out wide. Bringing hands back to heart center, just as lightly releasing back to crescent lunge. Opening it up for warrior two. Feeling yourself settle in. Reaching back for reverse. Relaxing that back hip. Strengthening through the legs and lengthening from the left hip all the way up to the fingertips. For side angle stretch, again, choosing our options, using our block as needed. Hips relaxing down, upper body rotating open. Releasing hands to the mat, spinning up on the ball of the back foot, releasing the back knee and foot down. Let's relax our hips down and lift through our heart center. Bringing our hands to lightly rest on the left leg, feeling our body lift tall. Reaching arms overhead as an option. Bringing hands to the mat. Let's tuck those back toes and lift the back knee, returning to crescent lunge. Bringing hands to the mat and our opportunity to step back for down dog and vinyasa, down dog and hold, or child's pose. We'll meet back together in our downward facing dog. Let's take that right heel to the sky, and this time bend the knee and open the hips. And let's draw some great big circles with that knee. And then bringing it back, heel lifting and stepping all the way to the top for crescent lunge. Strengthening and energizing through our legs, lifting through the upper body. Hands to heart center. Shifting and forward, let's float into our warrior three. Reaching arms wide. And turning this into balancing half moon. Hopefully we have a block handy to rest that right arm on. Pressing strong through the right leg, lifting through the left, and rotating open with the body. Now nice and easy, let's float it back to warrior two. Straightening through our front leg. Let's crease into the front hip, lengthening it out by reaching forward. Hand down, hand up, triangle pose. Feeling our tailbone reach toward our back heel, and the upper body really rotating open as the bottom hip tucks in. Can have our hand on our shin or on the block or the floor. We'll choose here. Inhaling to the top and reaching all the way back for reverse triangle, softening the back hip, lengthening through the front or right rib cage, all the way up through the shoulder. Returning arms to a T And hands to the mat as we step back and choose to flow through vinyasa or hold down dog or choose child's pose. We'll meet back together in our downward facing dog. This time taking our left heel to the sky, bending the knee, opening the hips, and drawing some big circles with that knee. Returning hips to square, heel lifting high. Let's step it all the way through for crescent lunge. Hands coming to heart center. Let's shift forward and float into our warrior three again. Grabbing our block if we like, and opening it up into our balancing half moon. Pressing strong through the left leg, lifting through the right, and rotating open with the body. Now just as lightly floating it down into warrior two. For triangle, let's straighten it up, crease into our front hip and lengthen the body, turning it over, reaching that tailbone toward the back heel, feeling the bottom hip tuck in as the upper body rotates open. Lifting it up and reaching all the way back to reverse triangle, softening through the back hip, strengthening through the legs as we're lengthening through the upper body, especially the left side. Taking hands to the mat, stepping it back, and an opportunity to flow, hold down dog or child's pose. Let's take a baby step forward with our feet, back with our hands, forward with our feet, and back with our hands. And keep going until we find the middle of the mat. A nice deep knee bend. Let's reach wide and return to standing. Taking arms all the way overhead and drawing hands through heart center. Let's take a moment here to feel into the foundation of our feet, the lifting through our body, and the relaxing through the shoulders, through the tailbone, through our jaw. Feeling the movement of our breath. All right, let's move now into eagle wrap pose. We'll begin with our effort in our right leg and bringing our left toes either over to the side, touching the side of the calf, or wrapping toes behind the calf, whichever feels best for today. And then as we wrap the arms up, we have our left leg on top, so our left arm will go on bottom. And we can wrap the arms all the way up or give ourselves a big hug, whichever we prefer. To deepen the stretch in the hips, we can sit a little lower. And for more stretch in the shoulders, we can lift our elbows higher. And then letting it go. Let's shift now over into the left leg and right toes touching the floor on the opposite side of the left foot, resting on the side of the calf or wrapping around. And right arm on bottom as we either wrap it up or give ourselves a big hug. And if we want that deeper hip stretch, we're sitting lower. For more sensation in the shoulders, lifting elbows higher. And gently releasing. Let's inhale to reach overhead. Swan dive as we fold it in. Inhale for half lift. And releasing down. Let's step back on the hands and knees once more. Now let's draw some figure eights with our shoulders and hips. And then taking that the other direction, drawing figure eight backwards. And back to the center. Coming now onto our seat. You can rest onto a hip and bring legs around. Of course, we always have the option in seated poses to sit on something, so perhaps a folded blanket under the hips. And we'll bring ourselves, whether we're supported with a blanket or on the floor, to be supported on the sitting bones. So adjust as needed. And then let's feel ourselves lift tall out of the spine and relaxing through the hips. We'll notice our knees relaxing a little deeper. Let's lift our heart center and relax through our shoulders. We can soften our gaze or close our eyes if we like. Now let's allow ourselves to breathe a little deeper. Just a couple more breaths here. And now, if we like, we can hinge a little deeper, sending that stretch perhaps deeper into the back of the hips or in the hip crease or more in the inner thigh. Let's allow ourselves to deepen the stretch in some way and take 5 more breaths. And with our inhale, let's bring it to the top. Stretching our legs out in front, adjusting as needed. So we're still right on our sitting bones. Reaching long through our legs with enough bend in our knees that we can flex our toes and sit up nice and tall. Let's relax through our shoulders, relaxing with our chin, and enjoy the length and the strength of this posture for a couple breaths. With our next inhale, let's lift a little more and hinging right at our hips, let's fold it forward. Feeling our heart reach toward our toes, our spine is nice and long. We're stretching right into the backs of the legs. If we feel it in the lower back, and especially if that does not feel good, let's lift, bend the knees a little more, lift again, hinge forward, and that should put the stretch more in the backs of the legs and release the tension of the lower back. And with our next inhale, let's bring it up to the top again. We're moving now into hip stretch. So there's several options here. I encourage everyone to choose the one that feels best today. Excuse me. The first would be pigeon pose. So you're going to have, it doesn't matter which leg, I'm starting with my left knee bent and taking the right leg behind so that the leg is straight back. So pigeon pose can stay lifted, can come forward, down to forearms, or to the floor. If that one does not feel good today, we can choose either a seated figure four, fingertips facing forward, heart lifting tall, or a supine figure four, resting shoulders down, either holding on behind the leg or arms resting or foot resting. So let's choose a variation of hip stretch that feels good today. Pigeon or one of the figure four options. And let's take 8 breaths here. Let's begin to make our way out of this pose. If you've chosen pigeon pose and want to take a moment to go through mermaid pose, please feel free to take that option. And then as we're ready, we'll all begin to make our way into our hip stretch on the other side. So whichever knee, do the other knee, and either pigeon pose in any of its variations, or figure four in seated, or supine, and any of the supine variations. So as we make our way then to our hip stretch, and it may be different on the side, and that's totally fine. We'll find the one that feels best for this hip, and let's take 8 breaths. And now beginning to release this pose. If you have chosen the supine figure 4 laying on the back, please stay. The rest of us are coming to meet you. So if we've chosen a seated or pigeon, and if you've chosen pigeon or going through mermaid, as soon as that's complete, let's all begin to make our way down onto our backs and draw knees to chest. Once we find that place, let's reach our shoulders down into the mat and then release that effort. And drawing the muscles along the sides of our back down into the mat and releasing. And then the muscles of our hips reaching down into the mat and letting that go. Now then, let's put our feet on the mat and sit on our hands so that we're sitting on the backs of our hands. And let's lift our legs up for a variation on legs up the wall pose. So we'll adjust our hands so that it's comfortable and we're able to keep our legs up fairly easily. They don't have to be straight, they can be relaxed. In fact, with this variation, let's relax them on purpose and allow the effort of the legs to really rest down into the hips. We can even do some ankle rolls here, drawing some great big circles with the ankles. And of course, let's do that both directions. And let's point our toes and then flex them, pulling the toes back toward the knees. And let's do that a few times. Stretching the calves, stretching the shins on the tops of the feet. And then relaxing the effort through the feet and ankles, relaxing the legs. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And bending our knees, let's place our feet down and move into bridge pose. So as we lift our hips, let's feel our inner thighs engaging toward each other, pressing through the shoulder blades and the backs of the arms. If we like that deeper opening in the upper body, we can interlace fingers behind our back and walk our arms up underneath our shoulders, feeling that extra work and opening for the upper body. And we'll continue to press strong through our feet as we lift tall through our hips. Two more breaths here. And beginning to release back down. Once our body's back on the mat, let's draw knees to chest and rock gently from side to side. And returning to the center. For a supine twist, let's stretch our right leg out and rest on the mat, taking our opposite hand to knee and stretching our left arm out to the side. We'll draw our left knee across the body and scoot our hips a little to the left so that we're laying on the side of our right hip. And let's check in with our left shoulder. We would like for that to be resting on the mat. So if it's lifting up away from the mat, let's release the twist a little, let the shoulder rest down, and then re-engage the twist. Let's take 4 more breaths here. And then returning to the center, bringing hips back to neutral. Let's stretch the left leg out, drawing the right knee up, opposite hand to knee, right arm out to the side. And as we take the knee across the body, let's scoot the hips over to the right. And then checking in with that right shoulder. If it's peeling up, let's release a little, rest back down, and then re-engage the twist. 8 breaths here. Bringing it back through the center, bringing hips back to neutral. Let's draw knees to hips again, and this time draw some big circles with our knees. And then taking those circles the other direction. And coming back to the center. As we release, let's prepare ourselves for final relaxation. Stretching it out. A good place to start is with feet hip width, mat width, or wider. Arms relaxed a few inches away from the waist. If this doesn't feel quite comfortable, please make any adjustments needed, perhaps placing blanket under the head or under the knees, or making any other adjustments needed. We'll take a moment to set ourselves up for our relaxation. As we find that place where our bodies are able to rest free from effort, let's allow our minds the same opportunity to enjoy those spaces in between thoughts. Shavasana. Let's begin to bring our awareness back to our body. Initiating some gentle movements and deepening our breath. If we like, with our next inhale, we can reach arms overhead to stretch it out. And letting ourselves melt into the floor as we exhale. Let's gently roll over onto our side. And as we feel ready, pressing up to a seated position once again. Drawing hands to our heart center once we found our seat. Taking a moment to feel into the foundation of our seated posture. Noticing how our body feels in this moment. How our mind feels. Thank you so much for sharing this practice with me. It is my honor that you've chosen to spend your time here. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.